MMA Boxing Talk here, coming at you with another video. I just wanted to put out a video talking about J.Cotto's hashtag Comeback to Boxing radio show that just aired live. It started at 6 p.m., lasted an hour and a half, and this is something he's going to be doing from here on in, it seems. Next Wednesday at 6 p.m., J.Cotto is going to be having another hashtag Comeback to Boxing radio episode. The first one was awesome. I want to tip my hat to J.Cotto and his movement, hashtag Comeback to Boxing. You know, if you haven't already, check out his YouTube channel. Got a lot of great content, awesome videos on boxing. You know, this guy has a lot of knowledge on the sport, and you know, he's not biased, very realistic. And you know, a show like this, a live show like that, listening in, it proves that, because you know, this guy, you know, he's the same from his videos. You know, so did a great friggin' job. Hats off to you, buddy. Now, I just want to talk about basically what happened in the first episode, the first show. Just basically recapping it. Now, this is not in any particular order or anything like that, but a lot of stuff they were talking about was the competitiveness in boxing and how it's been lacking as of late, you know, as of the last 10 years especially. You know, definitely more recently in the last 5, but this has been going on for a little while. And, you know, basically nowadays, pay-per-view, if you want to be a pay-per-view star and, you know, you want to make the big bucks, it's basically a popularity contest. And that's what J.Cotto said. And it's true, because, you know, perfect example is, you know, Amir Khan. Solid fighter, you know, I'm not gonna bash on him, but you know, this guy is a pay-per-view star. People, you know, they're interested, and you know, he generates a lot of interest. Then you got a guy like Triple G, who is a much better fighter. You know, he's the king at 160, and this guy is not a pay-per-view star because he's not as popular as Amir Khan. So that's why it is you know, a popularity contest when you're talking about pay-per-view. Another thing, you know, that was brought up is just, you know, hiding, or fighters are hiding from competitive fights, you know, and that's what the reason why the sport is being diluted, because everyone, you know, they're looking at the Mayweather blueprint, and that the Mayweather blueprint has nothing to do with competitiveness and fighting the best, and you know, always taking your mandatory and not your not a voluntary fight, because a lot of champions now are taking, you know, back to back to back voluntary fights sometimes. You know, it's pathetic. But one great quote J.Cotto said, I love this quote: "Unification solidifies greatness," and that is, you know, the absolute truth. You know, the closest guy at this point in boxing that's, you know, the closest to being you know, undisputed, I should say, is Sergey Kovalev. He's got 3 out of the 4, you know, championship belts, and he's one of the best in boxing. You know, you could argue that he's, you know, number 1 pound for pound, if not top 3, top 5. You know, he's one of the best, and anyway, and he's the closest to being, you know, unified. So unification solidifies greatness, and he's absolutely right. Triple G got 2 out of the 4. You know, so anyway. Another thing J.Cotto said, I really like this. I'm not sure if it's in the exact order here. I just wrote down a few little notes. But J.Cotto made a good point. You know, he would rather see 2 world-class fights and pay $70 than watch 13 free PBC fights, you know, that are all mismatches, that has no competitiveness. And I agree. I would rather pay $70 for 2 great fights, you know. Now, he also said Golden Boy and Top Rank, you know, are the 2 only promotional companies in boxing that consistently put on good fights. I mean, and I'm not talking every single card, of course, but Golden Boy and Top Rank will actually put, two top fighters that are in-house fighters and face them off. You know what I mean? Perfect example of that is Top Rank and Bradley Pacquiao. Now they're going to be fighting for the third time. PBC, it's taken them a year to put Thurman and Porter together. PBC started 2015 in March. I think Keith Thurman was the first one. And a year later, we finally get Thurman and Porter? It makes no sense. Why did it take a year to make this? Obviously, PBC has a game plan, whatever. But in my opinion, it's not working because they've lost. PBC has lost like something crazy, like it's over $400 million that they're in the hole because they're not putting on competitive fights. And anyway, it's proof that PBC is a joke because they're not putting on competitive fights and they're not making money. No surprise. Anyway, I could go on about that all day. Another thing I want to talk about that was brought up on the hashtag Come Back to Boxing radio show with J.Cotto, the host, was comparing a legacy fighter to a prize fighter. And for those of you who don't know the difference, a legacy fighter is a guy that only cares about his resume and the the legacy that he's going to leave behind. It's pretty straightforward. A legacy fighter. Perfect example of that, an Oscar De La Hoya. He never ducked nobody. He fought all the best guys. Win or lose, he would get in the ring and he would put it on the line. Manny Pacquiao, another guy. I mean, I've watched Thunderdome Boxing Talk. Shout out to his channel, awesome boxing channel on YouTube. But he's mentioned how many pound for pound fighters that Manny Pacquiao had faced in his career, and pound for pound at that time. Floyd Mayweather's record, for example, there's a lot of pound for pound fighters that he beat, but were they a pound for pound fighter when he beat them? At that particular time, he doesn't have nearly as much as Pacquiao. Anyway, so a prize fighter would be like I said, a Floyd Mayweather, the prize fighter from Vegas, as J.Cotto calls him. He doesn't fight for having the best resume or having the best legacy. He fights for the prize. He's a prize fighter. He fights for the money. He obviously fights to stay undefeated, which is a lack of competitiveness, and that's what J.Cotto's movement is all about. Competitiveness in fights. Having the best fight the best. We don't want to see any voluntaries. We don't want to see our champions take 2 or 3 voluntaries in a row before they take a mandatory. One voluntary is okay, but you better fight your mandatory next. And the sanctioning bodies, they're not putting their foot down. It seems to be very rare that's happening. So, the fans, the real fans have to voice their opinion, and that's what J.Cotto's doing with his radio. Hashtag Come Back to Boxing Radio. It's awesome. I hope it gets really big. It was an awesome first show. I'm rambling on here. Another thing I didn't even mention was that during the show, for like a very, very long portion of the show, Mauricio Herrera was on the show, debating about all these things, and that's really impressive. And I respect Mauricio Herrera tremendously for doing so. There's not too many fighters today that would actually go on a show like that for over an hour or whatever whatever it was. I guarantee you no PBC fighter would do that right off the bat. Guaranteed, no PBC fighter would ever go on a show like this. There's no way. But this guy did it, so I commend him for that. And he is one of the best fighters at 140. This guy's been robbed before. He beat Danny Garcia. He beat him. There's no doubt. And this guy's talking about fighting Luca Matisse next, and that would be such an amazing fight. And he's talking, if that don't work out, or if I get past him or whatever, he wants to fight Terrence Crawford, a phenom, a future star, a future pay-per-view star even. So this guy, he's not scared to fight anyone Mauricio Herrera, hats off to him. Very, very impressed. He's the real deal. Now, I also just wanted to talk about, it was funny because when I called in, it was earlier on the show before Mauricio Herrera came on, and it was funny because when I called, the topic was Anthony Joshua, and that's what my question was about, whatever. So by the time I actually got on the air, it was the topic had changed. We were talking about Adrian Broner and Theophane. So J.Cotto asked me about that fight, and I never did my homework on Theophane. I wish I would have, but so I kind of stopped the flow of the show for a minute and went back to Joshua. But anyway, J.Cotto, he basically said that Joshua should fight David Haye or possibly Briggs next, because my question was, what would be the ideal fight for Joshua next that would improve his experience level. And he said, Haye or Briggs, and it makes sense because these guys are experienced fighters. They've fought both championship level fights for many years, and it would be a good test for a young phenom like Anthony Joshua. So I agree. But it was just kind of funny how it worked out. I wish I would have called in earlier, but anyway, awesome show. Check it out next week, 6 p.m. next Wednesday. It's going to be another show apparently, so that's awesome. Just wanted to put out a video talking about the first show on J.Cotto's #ComeBackToBoxingRadio. It's a great movement. I suggest all boxing fans follow J.Cotto on YouTube, subscribe to him, and also, like I said, Thunderdome Boxing Talk, one of the best channels as well. A channel that I love and that's given me a lot of support. YTBC Student, puts out he's real. He's not gonna bullshit. He puts out great videos talking about boxing, and he's another good channel to check out. And also Montero on Boxing is a good show. I love his channel, and yeah. But this is #ComeBackToBoxing, what it's all about. We have to get behind this, and we can't put up with voluntary after voluntary after voluntary. The fans, we have a voice with social media. Let's use it, and that's exactly what this radio show's all about. And I just think it's a great thing. So let's get behind this, and let's bring boxing back to its competitive nature, like it was, in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, even the early 2000s. There was a lot of good fights, But that's it for this one. So if you like the video, subscribe. MMA Boxing Talk. Peace.